Hi there, this is Pete Howard, Director of Concert Posters for Heritage Auctions. And I'm here today to educate and inform you about the really burgeoning field of concert posters, just a robust segment of music collectibles. And we're starting off with a couple of real monsters in their respective areas of concert posters, which is basically psychedelic concert posters, the Grateful Dead, and boxing style or cardboard non-psychedelic concert posters, exemplified here by the Beatles. And just to start with a bang right off the bat, the value of this Grateful Dead falls in the range of $75,000 to $150,000, and the Beatles board has gone for as much at Heritage as $275,000. So yeah, it's a burgeoning field, all right. So what makes a concert poster collectible and even valuable? Well, first, of course, the musician. Music that people love and collect is the biggest starting point. Without that, the next 5 categories almost don't matter. Rarity. Will you have another shot at getting one soon? Or do you hardly ever see it? Eye appeal. Are you excited to frame it and put it on your wall where others may love it just for its decorative appeal? Condition. Now, this has moved to the forefront of the psychedelic world with official numbered grading, but it's a key factor for all posters. What printing? Well, before the show is the line in the sand. And again, it's another key driver of the psychedelic world, whereas most non-psychedelic concert posters never have an additional printing past the first. And historic angle. Is there something compelling behind the scenes, not shown on the poster, such as the Beatles' last ever concert, or the Beach Boys concert poster from the very day President John F. Kennedy was assassinated? So there are 2 main categories, as I said. Psychedelic posters were made from the late 1965 up through the early 70s. So that's only about a 10-year span, remarkably, whereas cardboard, window cards, or boxing-style concert posters, they've been made for 100 years. However, both styles were created for one reason only, and that is for advertising purposes. Both of these were created for one reason: to draw money out of your wallet or purse and buy tickets. Anything repros, reprints, made after the show, even designed after the show, that all falls in the category of merchandising posters. That's not only for another day. Those are so low value, that's basically eBay stuff. So everything I'm about to show you is first editions before the concerts happen in order to sell tickets. So let's take a look first at the psychedelic side. So the psychedelic posters obviously have just heart-stopping art in some cases, created largely based out of San Francisco by a few now famous concert poster artists, and boy were they fabulous at getting attention. Now, we've already mentioned the Grateful Dead Skeleton and Roses there from 1966, and from 1968, a couple of years later, here's the Jimi Hendrix Experience with the famous Flying Eyeball poster. I mentioned the price range on this. We have sold this one for as much as, hold your breath, $175,000. Now, that was in a really high grade and signed by the original poster artist Rick Griffin, whereas this was created by Stanley Mouse and Alton Kelly. Now, you might notice they also have grading strips at the top, and they're encased in plastic. That's because that's very much an important part of this hobby now with psychedelic posters only, and that is to authenticate, grade on a scale of 1 to 10, and encapsulate to guard against any further damage going forward, because just a bump to the corner or whatever can drop a poster's grade and its value. And as you can see, the Jimmy is in 9.0 and the Grateful Dead's in 9.8. The grades go all the way down to half or 1, just like baseball cards and other hobbies. Obviously, the higher the grade and the population count of that grade, the more the value. But psychedelic posters, most of the money right now is in the graded items, although there's some real winners that are not graded. And there's also, they don't all have to be high-end graded psychedelic posters to capture our interest and the interest of our customers. And here's a couple of examples of non-graded psychedelic posters by, lesser bands as far as the money count goes. And that would be Buffalo Springfield in Long Beach, California, 1968, their final show ever with Neil Young and Stephen Stills, and Donovan in Portland, Oregon the same year. And these are both very collectible and just less money count, but still, good, respectable psychedelic concert posters, certainly worth over $1,000 each, and that's something we thrive on at Heritage. Okay, well, let's jump over now to the cardboard boxing style category. So these cardboard boxing style concert posters were basically and largely made in two specific sizes. That would be standard at 14 by 22 inches and jumbo at about 22 by 28 inches. Now both of these are nice looking, aren't they? Single artist concert posters. James, if you see all the other artists, they're all part of his review. This is just James Brown, no opening acts, and the Beach Boys, single artist concert posters. And they also feature photographs of each of the musicians, which is really nice but not a given, as you'll see in just a moment. I hate to break away from these, they look so nice, but the next examples will really show you what I mean. So voila, here are two other boxing style cardboard concert posters in the same sizes I was talking about before, standard 14 by 22, jumbo 22 by 28. Notice instead of one artist though, they're multi-artist with lots of people on there. Sure, you gotta sell tickets. And notice no photographs of anyone. Very standard, especially back in the 50s, but also, moving forward through time, it was just a cheaper way to just run off some concert posters and get them out there. And they're still pretty effective, even without photographs on there. You might notice, by the way, Jackson 5 before they signed to Motown, 10-year-old Michael Jackson, that's five-figure poster. In fact, both of these posters also fall into a genre I love before they were famous, concert posters. So, this is not a cleanup week special concert poster, it's an early Michael Jackson. And for Hank Snow and a couple of comedians and so forth, look at that, fifth build Elvis Presley. We just sold this for a tidy $187,000. So there's a lot of gold in them there are hills. Even if the posters look pretty simple without, the flashy photographs of the musicians. But I just love both of these. And here's a couple of examples of multi-artist boxing-style concert posters with photos of everyone, and for good measure, song titles, bright colors, and everything else. These are just two beautiful, gorgeous examples. We've got the 1950s and the 1960s. But, don't start hitting garage sales looking for these. These are really rare. They just all were thrown away after the shows back then. But a couple of beautiful specimens here for you. Now, one thing about psychedelic concert posters is they tended to represent, pretty much the acid rock genre that came alive in the mid-60s and into the early 70s. But these boxing-style telephone pole, cardboard concert posters we're featuring in this video cover every musical genre you can imagine and beyond, such as comedy and so forth. But I just thought I'd quickly show you great artists from both the country and the jazz fields, Johnny Cash and Dave Brubeck, and nice vintage pieces using really nice graphics, especially on the Brubeck, really nice pieces. And with boxing style posters, they had this really cool, sort of unique look from the mid-30s to about the mid-1940s, the end of World War II, and they often used artistic renditions of the musicians. Look at this Louis Armstrong from 1940 in New Hampshire. This is a cardboard boxing style concert poster, and there were tons of big band posters made just like this in that era. Then there's the totally popular field, of course, of blues and rhythm and blues posters, and what a couple of dazzlers to show you here. B.B. King from 1964, just take a look at that, and James Brown from 1960. And then there's handbills, obviously the smaller version of posters that collectors just love, and rightfully so. And here's a couple of examples from either field. You've got the Grateful Dead Skeleton and Roses handbill, and the Rolling Stones in 1969 here in Dallas, Texas. So a couple of good examples for you. And before you scoff, by the way, $12,500 for the Grateful Dead one at a recent sale. So this stuff is collectible if it's the right bands and in the right condition. And of course the Stones are right there with the Dead, although not quite of that value. And there's lots of lower level handbills worth a couple hundred, few $100s, all just really fun stuff. And of course, we can't forget, the modern era of rock, and boy, what a couple of beauties here by a couple of, the biggest stars and moneymakers. Obviously, this field will grow with time as just the right collector reaches that middle-aged demographic with lots of disposable income. But you notice something else? Yeah, they're graded and encapsulated by the same company, CGC, because it keeps them in perfect condition. How about that eye-popping 10 grade on the Red Hot Chili Peppers poster on the left? In fact, how about that eye-popping artwork on the Chili Peppers poster? And notice whose second build, Nirvana? Yeah, that's 1991, and then of course, once Nirvana made it in 1993, they had their own headlining posters, and that's a beautiful 9.8 grade. So this part is really going to be growing as we move forward with concert posters. So that concludes our little tutorial on concert posters here at Heritage. Just such an exciting field and growing so much. I'm Pete Howard. It's been a pleasure to tell you this. And if you have anything that questions you have, or if you'd like to consign something or find out about values, just contact Heritage Auctions. We'll be here for you. And happy music listening.